My name is Ramiro Cavazos, and I have the honor of moderating this panel. You all have the backgrounds of our distinguished panel. I am very excited to be here with each of you as we empower Latinos and Latinas. We have, of course, with us Maria Rios, Guillermo Perales, and Regina Mersan. Let's give them a big warm round of applause. They are three outstanding entrepreneurs. They are proof of the American dream and of the job creation and wealth creation that's happening in our country. So let's get right into it. We are going to have some closing remarks from each of you, and I just want to thank them for making time for us. They're very accomplished people, and we're going to have this be an interactive opportunity. We'll open it up to questions. And so let me ask them to give us their initial statement, call to action. What makes you wake up in the morning? Give us a couple of minutes, and then I'll ask you a couple of questions, and then we'll open it up for the audience. Bienvenidos y muchísimas gracias a ustedes. Again, let's start with Guillermo.
Okay. Well, thank you for the invitation. It's an honor being here, and living in Dallas for 20 plus years. It seems like keep doing the same every day, wake up early and go to work and keep growing the company. And after 20 years, we've been able to develop and build new stores and expand among different concepts. I don't know if everybody knows, but we're in Burger King, Popeyes, Arby's, T-Mobile, Krispy Kreme. So every day is constantly working to expand. Basically, that's my main goal.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Wow. What makes me wake up in the morning? The smell of coffee, of course. Depending where I am, I could be in America or anywhere overseas where it's 2 o'clock here when it's 4 o'clock at night in the morning elsewhere. But my goal and what wakes me up is to continue doing what I'm doing best, is creating jobs and contributing more to this GDP of America, of course, and taking my business to a different level. I just developed a new division, and to me, I just keep dreaming to make this dream more real.
It's a division on safety, right?
It's the worker safety, sensors for workers to mitigate injuries on the job before they happen. And that's what I have developed for workers in the oil and gas industry, telecom, or anywhere where injuries can be mitigated for workers in the world. And that's what I have done.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I just realized we have 2 graduates of the Stanford program on our panel. And so we have Victor Arias, who's the chairman of LBAN, the Latin Business Action Network at Stanford. Gracias, Victor. He's also on the board of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, so he's one of my bosses. So I'll do my best today as the CEO. Gracias, Victor. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you for your leadership. And so, Regina, give us your story real quick,
Yes.
and then we'll open it up to questions. Bienvenidos.
Thank you. So I founded Reina Rebelde, which is a makeup line primarily focused on the Latino woman. What gets me out of bed every day was my own frustration as an immigrant to this country, and I felt that the conversation and the narrative around Latinos, Latinas is not at a level it should be. So I was out to change that conversation and elevate the way other people see our community, the way we see ourselves, and sort of empower that narrative and change it to something more sophisticated and more high level than it was prior.
Thank you. And you are in Dallas?
Yes.
And Guillermo, you're in Dallas?
Yes.
And I think, Maria, you're everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm in Houston and Austin, another headquarters. I started with a waste removal services. I'm the first Latina in the waste management industry in America. And I turned trash into treasure.
Excellent. Well, I have tell us about CEOs are very important for any company or any business. People know that creates a culture of excellence to be successful. We know companies like Amazon never close. They're open 24/7. What is the reality of your business what do people need to know about building your own business, and what are the top 3 challenges? And then if you could share maybe what are the 3 things that you didn't expect? And let's start with you, Ricky.
Failure's around the corner all the time, it feels like. I think the biggest 3 challenges, the first one is yourself. You bring and project all of your background noise, whether it's being Latina, not feeling appreciated, all the good and the bad. You're going to project it onto your business, and I think that's a challenge that you have to learn how to manage. I've also been very surprised by, I shouldn't have been, but the amount of no's I got in the process of creating my business. I used to be an attorney and thought, people are just going to say yes to everything. I come with this credibility to the table. People love to say no, and everybody projects their own limitations on what they think you can accomplish, and I think that's important to remember. And honestly, the dedication, you have to have fire in your gut for what you're doing, because in the darkest of days or weeks, it is the only thing that keeps you pushing forward. And it's a game of resilience above all else. It's not about getting there quickly, it's about just getting there eventually, right? And so those have been the 3 things that I think have surprised me.
Guillermo, you're back. I have a lot of family in Monterrey and South Texas. The name Cavazos is muy regio montano. You went to the Tech. The last 20 years, I think it was 97 or 99, you started your business. What made you get out of, in your case, not the law, but whatever you're doing to get into this business?
Well, I always wanted to have my own business, and it's hard to pick which way you want to go and what is going to be able to get financing, create scale, and grow. So at that time, I kind of thought franchising, it's a way of not just doing everything yourself, because you're just part of a big system. And as long as you execute well and follow the rules, you should be successful, because that system is successful. So I thought at that time it was going to be a lot easier to get financing and a lot easier to grow. So that's why I went into in franchising. Restaurants is the biggest segment, and probably not the most profitable, but it's one of the best in that segment. So nowadays we also have T-Mobile and retail and restaurants. I mean, fitness is also a very good area that is very profitable, but I haven't jumped into that. So at the beginning it was like she was saying, everybody tells you no, and financing is hard, and everything is difficult. And here, imagine Mexico is even more difficult, but here, I guess with the SBA loan that I got, it kind of opened the first store, and then
So that was your first?
The first one.
Was it
Golden
a
Corral.
504 loan or?
Yes,
7A?
it's I think it was like $1.3 million loan, so it's a 504.
Yeah, so you had
because we had a bank and the SBA, so the bank
and then your own
because
equity.
had a guarantee.
And
Yes, but only 10-15%
10-15%.
equity, and you got most of the financing through the
But that's how you
bank
got
and the
started.
SBA. Yes, yes. And it's just every year it's a continued reinvestment, pushing, waking up, and try to avoid the problems, and pushing and pushing and pushing. I mean, don't give up. I mean, so it's just been a good run, and the larger you get, the more you can grow. So it used to be that, geez, we're going to invest $1.5 million, it's going to be a lot. Now every year, I mean, the last 3 years we have opened around 200 stores, just investing close to $300 million. So as you get bigger, you're able to create more jobs, build more things, and our company is we're always pushing the limits. We're trying to grow as fast as we can, build as many stores as we can, and that's what we do.
But you still don't have El Rey del Cabrito franchise.
No. See, we just bought Taco Bueno in January.
Oh, okay.
But it's the big dilemma between. Actually, the advertising is a fight between a cowboy for Tex or a mariachi for Mex. So it's a combination of Tex-Mex, and I don't know what goes better, if you want to go Mex-Mex or Tex-Mex or more Tex-Mex. But our consumer is more Tex-Mex, so it's. I wish I had the answer, because if you start going to Mexican, maybe it won't work. But that's part of what you're trying to find what the consumer really wants. And right now it's more Tex-Mex than Mex-Mex.
Right.
Don't ask me why, but that's the way it is right now.
So Maria, tell us your story. How did you get started, and what were some of the challenges?
Well, I started Nation Waste with two lines of credit. Right after finishing my undergraduate from the University of Houston, one of our projects was
Go Cougs.
You got a couple of coups here.
to put a business plan together at our class. So with that business plan and recommendations from my professors, I was able to apply for the loans. And that was how I started Nation Waste, and it was just one client at a time. And one of the things that I remember when I started the business is that, you not always know everything. I built credit before I needed. I also established lines of credits before I needed. So when the time comes, you prepare. So those are the things that help me all the time to go to get, like for example, we got a multi-million-dollar contract with the city of Houston to provide services to the city. And so if we wouldn't have done what I did it from the very beginning, establishing that relationship with bankers, then I would never have been able to comply with the big contract that we got. And so contracts start rolling and rolling, so you always need to know your numbers. If you do not have great books, you're not going to get loans. So that's a major challenge that I found when I just finished and continue your education. That's what I would say. Just recently, I just took an accelerated MBA through Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship program, and the pain for the majority of the entrepreneurs was more like the financials. So if you do not know anything, if you cannot hire a CFO and you do not know anything about your numbers, then I believe that's a mega challenge. So what I've done from day one is that I always learn. So my business plan was turned to growth plan and then to scaling plan through the education that I've been getting. And I established one division in my business, which is we provide services to small business owners, the Fortune 500 companies, government entities, and is through the commercial, the industrial, and also recycling and the sanitary portable toilets. Then I saw the need of worker safety. Safety is one of the greatest thing that is required for OSHA, and of course I want all my employees to be safe. So that when I was at Stanford, that's what triggered me with greatest mentors. And thank you very much, Victor Arias, for everything, all the help.
Do we really have to thank them that much?
Because
I think you did pretty well yourself.
Thank you. I was able to develop the idea that I had in mind, and with mentors, I was able to partner with IBM. And now this is a reality. We can monitor and mitigate injuries on the job anywhere in the world. And here's IBM right there, representing Jody Fisher.
Nice,
So,
thank you.
one of the things that is important. And then, of course, we were talking about culture. I always have my family to always back me up, and they always are part of what I do and my success. And since they were little, my children, they were beside me, because I went to college having children. I got married after high school. And so basically, my children learned everything that I have done, and my husband, of course, they supported me. And so I just want to say hello to my son who's supporting me here
right?
today.
This is our son, Alex.
And that's important. I mean, many challenges, but if you have the right people and the right bankers, you will succeed. Because I can tell you, I feel that I have succeeded. And like my dad used to say, the sky is the limit.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Regina, when you were speaking earlier, I could tell your voice was shaking a little bit. And I think there's a saying that I read the other day. It's okay to, when you speak the truth, to have your voice shake a little bit, because that means you're speaking truth to power. And I've never met a business owner bat at least 296 or 300, which means you only hit the ball or get a base hit 1 out of every 3 times,
Yeah.
which is pretty damn good. So tell me, if you can, in your business, a little bit about how you got started and some of those challenges, and then tell us a little bit more, because, you know, 2 things that I hear about Latino businesses. One is, if we don't get that first contract, we may not reapply. And that's what I hear from procurement people. You know, don't give up. Keep coming back. No doesn't mean no today or tomorrow or forever. And then the second issue is, tell a good story to a potential investor, you know, and practice it and do your homework, so they can't have any choice but to say yes. So tell us your business.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of micro failures along the way, right? There are these little things that you don't have a sense of which one's going to be fatal. Some of them feel very fatal. Speaking of lines of credit, I launched a Target last year, and within 3 weeks they wanted, you know, so much more inventory, and you know, I had to go out and like shake every tree I could find and get this line of credit to get this inventory reordered. And 5 months later, oh, we don't want that anymore. We want, you know, and of course in your head you're thinking, I'm sunk. Like, I'm going to go into bankruptcy because I've overextended myself on, and it turns out very few of those things are fatal, right? It's kind of being able to put yourself in a mindset of there's a solution to every problem, and a lot of those solutions are probably not going to come from within. So I think, you know, some of them are, but I think having an amazing network is really, really important. I mean, I think that was one of the things that surprised me. I always felt very isolated. I was like one of 3 Latinas in a law firm of 2,000 people, right? So I was always used to being like the one in the room. And when I launched this business, the amount of people from the community, Victor included, who sort of came out of the woodwork to support, to help, to say, how can I be part of this journey, is really powerful. And as you're going through it, everyone, you know, unfortunately we live in a world of Instagram, where it's like this projected, everyone's successful overnight. They're not. Right? It's a million failures. No one's putting their failures on Instagram, and no one's talking about them on those news articles and Forbes, right? No one is. So I think it's important to expect that there are going to be failures, but just be prepared to get up and sort of keep going. Like with the Target situation, once they decided they didn't want this and I was going to have excess inventory and I had this line of credit to pay, you know, it was time to just literally get on the phone and call and see what I could do with this inventory and see how I could monetize it as quickly as possible. And like 5 solutions showed up, not that week, but in 5 weeks. And it is this balance of like knowing when to push and when to sort of throttle back a little bit, because you don't know how things are going to turn out, and it does lead to a lot of micro failures. There's this delusion, I think, of entrepreneurship that you wake up every day and it's like the sky is blue. I know a lot of people that's not the case. You wake up for months sometimes and you feel like you're failing. It's part of the process, and I think the biggest challenge is waking up and saying, I'm going to keep pushing. And eventually, over time, it amounts to hopefully more successes than failures. I hope I answered your question.
You did.
Yeah.
You did. And now I know why the name of your business is such a cool name, Reina Rebelde. I like that.
Yeah.
Maria, tell us real quickly your story, and then we'll open it up to questions after Guillermo tells us.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is you always find what you want to do, what you're passionate about it, and so you know already that you will be spending so much time doing what you do. And so in my case, for instance, going into the bank, applying for $500,000 to buy 2 trucks with no contracts, that was just an investment, because that's a heavy cash business, and just believing in myself that I'm going to go and get some clients out there. But one of the things that, having a business plan is so important. It doesn't have to be a top of the line model business plan, but you have some kind of roadmap to follow. And so that was one of the benefits that helped me through from the beginning. So when we started getting it one contract, then the other contract. So the beautiful thing is that I set up contracts with terms. If I will provide services in units, compactors or roll-off dumpsters to an account, we have service contracts for 3 years, for 5 years, and they roll up. So it's a guaranteed asset right there, because I can, it's a secure investment. Then one of the things that helped me from the get-go was getting the certification process, certified with the state, certified with the city, certified with Women Association, and of course, as many certifications you can get. Why? Because when you have that in your portfolio, that's why my business has been so successful, because you already went through that needle of, qualifications and investigations. I mean, you name it. So I guess that's why since day one, we just been adding more trucks, adding more accounts, and growing our business. And of course, this waste removal services is a necessity. But we compete with the big boys. But people ask me, how can you be out there playing in the same playing field with these mega national companies? Well, the benefit is that we both go in for the same contract. But many times, if I do not get that contract, remember I say certifications, but they are required to provide a percentage of that contract to minorities. So I double minority. I'm Hispanic, I'm a woman. So I have more chances than anything else to get part of that pie. So if I don't get the full pie, but I can get half of the pie or some of the pie. And so to me, it's always being prepared for the failures. And you learn from them. There are setbacks, Many times you will get clients that will, start giving you problems like competition coming on board. I mean, of course, pricing. And when you have those contracts and you deliver what you promise, many times that's not a setback, because you have quality service and they know what they're paying. So you're not the least expensive, but you have something that they don't have.
Thank you, Ms. Fields. Mr. Perales, tell us your just thoughts real quickly on some of those things that drive you every day.
Yeah. Well, talking about the failures, I mean, I would think nothing is for sure. I mean, as we develop stores, we always have 10, 15% losers that you have to figure out a way to eliminate those losers. And no matter, I try to choose the stronger brands that they have stronger marketing, therefore you should be more successful. But even those brands, you will have failures. So as we keep growing, the failures, the bad stores grow, and you just have to figure out a plan B for those stores. And at the same time, as CEO, not only you have those failures, you have to maximize your good ones, and then you have all the other problems that arise every day that sometimes you feel like a firefighter because there are so many problems. You could say, let's go after that, let's go after that, and kill all the problems and do it. But that's what you do. I mean, give a lot of guidance and solve problems and keep going.
But that's part of success, is knowing there's some failure built in
Yes.
to that. Great. Let's open it up to questions for our great panel. Yes, sir. And then you.
Well, first of all, I want to commend all three of you, but put my Spanish in there. I love your attitude, and I'll say, as Hispanics, we do not diversify ourselves. We do not say, we say we're American, we're just as capable as anybody else and their brother. We can compete. And when having two people of the same background, education, everything being identical, except we got one thing, the color of our skin, that's sometimes used against us, right? By the way, my name is Jorge Aguirre from Optimal Business Solutions. We're executive recruiters for multicultural markets. And, but now here's my Spanish. I love the attitude you guys have of me vale madre. Now, quítate. That attitude is when they tell us you're Hispanic, you can't compete because, well, wait a minute, I got the same identical background as anybody else and I can compete. And your attitude is, so, now get out of my way. I'm going after it. And thank you for that.
Beautiful. Gracias. Yes, ma'am.
Also want to say, Maria, you have such a big angel. Tu sonrisa proyecta y motiva. My name is Ana Cruz. I work for a company that creates training for engineers in continuous improvement. I was in media for 14 years, and I changed my path for a place that pay better. But I always had that in my blood. My husband keeps telling me, like, you are an entrepreneur, you are I sell everything. No me falta vender mole los domingos. But I haven't find that like life-changing moment or event that pushed me. Like, I just feel like I need that last push to make my business happen. I create my own brand through media, and I've been doing a lot of things, but I know I can do something better. But what happened to you that you were like, okay, this is the moment, I'm gonna do this? Like, I'm pretty sure it was something personal that changed your life, and like you've been a successful attorney and now creating your own brand. That wasn't easy. It's like, I'm gonna leave a safe check to put everything and do my own business.
Yeah, I mean, I was an immigrant to this country. My parents never thought I'd probably graduate college, let alone go to law school and be a lawyer. And
From Guadalajara?
from Guadalajara, yeah. And I was a restructuring attorney. I worked on Lehman Brothers. Like, I worked at a big New York City, and it was hard leaving it. But there comes a moment, I think, for me anyway, where there was a calling, right? I was very unhappy. I was living the American dream, but it wasn't my dream. And that was very hard for me to internalize. And it didn't happen. I didn't wake up one day and say, oh my gosh, I'm switching. It was a gradual 3-year process of sort of losing touch with what I felt I was put on this earth to do. And it wasn't sit behind a computer helping GM get out of bankruptcy, right? And like that sort of slowly snowballed into, but what am I about? What do I really care about? Well, for me, it was returning to the community. It was helping other Latinos. Like, I was at the top of my game, and I felt completely out of touch with the community, and the community that in many ways had helped me get there. And from that, it's just sort of slowly snowballed. But I think it's being open to those kind of like things that happen in your gut where you're like, this feels right, this doesn't feel right. I mean, to go from a lawyer to starting a makeup line is a very far road, right? But for me, it was about empowering Latino women and how we use beauty as a tool to feel empowered and to show the world that we're capable of a million different things. And it literally started with this broad narrative downward. So, I mean, all I can say is that it rarely happens overnight. I'm certain there are people who woke up one day and said, I'm gonna go do this. That's not the way it was for me, and I think it's also having patience with timing. You'll know when the right time to jump is. You'll feel it.
Great. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
So this is more to hi Regina.
Hi.
And I'm Vanessa Navarez. I'm actually in media. And yes, there's a pay thing, but you gotta luchar. You gotta luchar and you gotta fight for what you're worth. And I know you're worth a lot.
It's hard.
So it's hard, but you need to have those conversations. So I work as an assistant desk editor, and I wanted to ask you, Regina, because you tapped on this. You said that there was a moment you felt isolated as an entrepreneur because there was failures that aren't being broadcasted on social media or anywhere, right? Do you think that not putting out our failures as Latino Latinx entrepreneurs is hurting our upcoming Latinx community? And if you do so or you don't, why or not?
I do. And I make it a point. I get asked to speak on a lot of panels to a lot of very excited young women. And I always make it known how hard this is. I think there is a bill of goods that's being sold to a lot of people right now, including Latinos as a community, that says anyone can go do this, it's easy, you wake up one day, you put some cool things on Instagram, and like we're off to the races. No. And the reason why I think it's dangerous is because you are fighting what is ultimately gonna like inform people and how hard they push themselves. What I don't want is to tell a bunch of people this was so easy, and then when they go out and they do it, and it's month 10, and it sucks, that they're gonna quit. Because they are gonna look for reference points around them, and the reference points are all gonna have, relayed this fake story that it was easy, and they're gonna say, well, if I'm not at point X by month 10, then that means I haven't made it, and that's just not true. And if we are here to help other Latinos come up in the ranks and start businesses and really fight for their dreams, they have to know that the road is long and it's hard and not to quit, and that's the narrative for me, I'm very much out to inform people because I think the alternative is very dangerous.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I have a quick question for you. I noticed there's this trend about preparation for a lot of you. A lot of you were in other professional fields, so in some sense you understood the fight, the energy, the passion, the commitment. But what were you doing before you launched your waste management company?
What was I doing? Before, well, I came to America when I was 13 with my parents without knowing a word of English. And my job was to go to school. Immediately after graduating from high school, I met my husband, the father of my 3 children. And so I started working with law firms and going to school, college. Started at the Houston Community College. Then I transferred to the University of Houston. So it took a little longer to finish my undergraduate degree. But I always had that in my mind as to I wanted to be a business owner. That was something always in my mind. Why? My parents never worked for anybody in our country. They had a great life. They came here because of a civil war and chaos in the country. So I never saw them working for anybody else. So I always thought I want to be a business owner. And I want to be a business owner and I want to work for my own business. So when I put this business plan, they asked us in college, and everybody was just brainstorming, what do I make it off? I don't know what I want to do. But then I thought, I got 3 things that I like to do. And of course, the waste management industry takes a lot of capital, takes a lot of, I did not know how to drive a truck, which I do now. And it's a male-dominated industry. Being the first Latina in the industry that I'm in, it's been very, it's challenging, but at the same time, it's hard. But I wanted to do something that I can be innovative, can grow. Imagine from the divisions that I created from the waste industry, and there's more to go. I mean, there's medical waste, there's nuclear waste, and then waste to energy, and on and on and on. But it's always finding a niche of things that. What's your passion? What you want to do? You want to clean the world. I want to be a role model for other girls. That it's not a male thing. It's just what you're passionate about it, and that's how I determined to become an entrepreneur in the waste management industry. So I wasn't really doing anything in particular that different. I just always wanted to do something, and something that can be innovative, something that I can make it bigger, and I can scale. And that's why I chose waste.
And she drives that truck with heels too, by the way. This gentleman will ask our last question, and then thank you all very much.
What is something that we can teach, like the minorities, like, because we are minorities, so like, how can we teach our community, which is mostly like in a minority situations, which in terms of minority situation, I'm talking about financials, because like there's only a few percentage of us, and not including myself because I'm not there yet, but there's only a few percentage of Hispanics that are at an executive level or financially stable to be able to make it to places like this, or get to a certain level. And so how can we pass this information down to our community that really needs it, which is the community that is poor, the community that is really lacking education, the community that is divided from all of the city, because in my community, like, it's very broken down. Like, the white affluent people are over here, and the Hispanic, blacks, and minorities are over here. And every time I went to school, I would see the difference in every school that I've been to. And then even going to certain games, I would see it. So like, how can we teach this back to our real community that is really lacking this information? What are some of the steps that y'all are taking, or that we can take as a community? That way we can relay this information of taking risk, of enjoying the process, of just you know, going through with it, and us not having these role models that were on TV. We don't have the Michael Jordan, the Jesse Jacksons, like they said, because they don't let that light shine on what we're doing. So I would like to know how we can.
Regina.
So I have two quick things. One is, I think growing up feeling that we're other, we need to change the narrative around that. I think it's a tremendous source of power, but we're told it's not because it's confusing. It's really messy to be Latino in today's world, right? We're speaking English, we're speaking Spanish at home, we've got the abuelita, we've got our, you know, it's a lot to process. But it actually makes us very adept at climbing a lot of different ladders, because we get into a place and we know, like, our heads are on a swivel. We are not committed to one single way of thinking, and that's really powerful. So I think changing the narrative around that's critical. And then for me, one step I'm taking is I really try as best as possible to give opportunities that come up in my business to other people in the community, because I think training and letting people have a front row seat to how you did it, how much work it was, it trickles down. They go home, they tell their families tell their nieces, they tell people in school. And I think really none of us got here on our own, right? Took an entire community of people championing you along the way, even people you didn't know. And I think it's really important once you're in a position like this, whenever I can get, all things being equal, a Latino comes to me and says, I can do that graphic design work for you, it's like, great, you're hired, let's do this, right? And I think that's really important.
Well said, Regina. Guillermo, and then Maria.
I would think education, like you mentioned, is a first, and once you have that education, and I guess what's next, and you really have to have a drive and type A personality, that be aggressive, don't give up, just keep pushing and pushing, and there's always a lot of no's, and there's like us in franchising. I mean, there is many people that want to buy the same guy, or many people that want to develop the same area, and many people that want to get into the same concept. So it's a constant fight. You just have to fight for your company, for your business, for your team, and keep going. So you have to have that push. And if you don't have it, and you kind of just like procrastinate and just say, oh, you really have to have a drive to push.
Thank you, Guillermo. Maria, close us out.
Absolutely. I mean, that really touched me when you said, about the neighborhoods and things like that. One of the things that I ask every entrepreneur, every successful entrepreneur, is to always remember where we're coming from. Give back to the community. I love to contribute to my community, creating more jobs. When I ask to go speak at a school, I do it with so much pleasure, especially a ninth grader in the underserved areas, so they can see, hey, Maria, that came from El Salvador and looks just like you. She owns this business. She owns this bunch of trucks, and she's a very successful person that she's now going global with worker safety and doing sensors and something to do with engineering and technology. I mean, this Latina can do that. So I love it when they ask me to go speak. I've been invited in every place, in not only just in Houston or in the United States, but in the globe. I had 27 deans from different universities from the world visit me, my facility, just to take that story to their business of colleges in the world. When my Houston Community College asked me, we love your story and we want to inspire other Latinas, so they put me on billboards in underserved neighborhoods, so the little girls can see that's Maria, and they can Google Maria, and this is what she's doing. So to me, I mean, that's like, it completes me. I mean, I feel like there was no one there to tell me what to do at the time, but I had great mentors. I had great professors, people that I asked questions to, and I feel that it's always good to give back, because that fulfills you. I mean, I feel complete when I see someone that I mentor. I mentor at the University of Houston, and two students of mine that I mentor are now owners of child daycare centers. Another is owner of a restaurant that is a unique restaurant. And I feel that I've done something good. So it's always never forget where we're coming from, when we're very successful and not so successful, but give back to your community and tell others and be a mentor. It's important.
These three people could have been working at their businesses, but join me in thanking them for giving their time to us today.